Howdy folks. Today we're going to talk about everyday carry and beyond. So this is just a portion of my gear. Some of the things I keep in my vehicle or on person or have at the ready. You just never know. Preparedness is on several different levels.
Oh, here. Let's get
Hey, we just did a quick EDC and all this stuff came out of Joey's pocket. Howdy folks. Here today with a special guest. So you got Joey and Joey.
Nice.
We're going to be talking about civilian everyday carry, and we're going to ramp it up a little bit, and for whatever reason we're doing so. Preparedness comes on many levels, so does everyday carry. Stay tuned. So, just starting on a civilian level, I'm a simple guy. Most of you know me. I'm not running around trying to be a military dude or nothing like that. But whatever I carry, I always have on me. Wherever I go, I have these few basic things. And the first and foremost, I will never, ever leave my house without a knife. Little Benchmade, nice steel. Always keep a good edge on there. And I'm just gonna, if you gotta open a package, if you gotta, you come across some good roadkill, you gotta carve it up, you're ready to roll. The other thing I got, never leave home without, I don't care if I'm going to church, the grocery store, coming over your house for dinner, I always have at least one pistol. This is a little 380 in the holster, and it doesn't make sense to go out without spare ammunition, 2 mags, and then I always keep a 4th in my pocket. That's my basic everyday carry. Now both these holsters are cheap, inexpensive holsters. They're from Phobos. Covers the trigger, which is nice, and I do carry around in the chamber. If I go beyond this, my next step is this flashlight right here. This is a Streamlight, very bright. It's got strobe. Even if I'm going like to a store, a mall, the camper show, in a big building, lights go out, it gets dark. And we know that from being in the prison. Have a little slick belt loop holder right here, little holster. And that I will add to that EDC. So that's my basic.
So now this is my everyday carry. This is something that any time that I leave the house, this is with me all the time. Doesn't matter where I'm going. The only thing that would prevent me from carrying any of this is if I'm going to have to be walking through a metal detector. If I'm going to be going into a restrictive place, I will strip stuff down accordingly, and I'll get into a little bit of that. Now,
that is a good point too.
Now my everyday carry, because I don't go anywhere also without a knife. My knife is a Kershaw open assist pocket knife. These are relatively inexpensive. I think you can get these at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops. They're about $25. The one thing that I do use is onto the belt clip, I will take a piece of 550 cord and I will make a type of lanyard. That way you do not have to get the entire purchase on the blade to pull it out. You can actually miss your intended target and grab the lanyard that is left hanging down, and then it is still maintained in your hand. So that is my blade of choice. I tend to use an inexpensive blade. Number one, you're doing things with them that you wouldn't do with a more expensive blade. And also, if you ever lose it, I've lost probably about 3 of these knives throughout my time. And if I lose it, I'm only out $25, and I'll just go buy another one. It's not terribly a big deal. The other thing that I carry all the time is I carry a Streamlight Hlx Flashlight. It has constant momentary on, it has constant on, and it has double tap strobe, which is good. This is a force multiplier. It has a gnarled bezel, which would actually become an impact device, and it is incredibly incredibly terrible if it was being shined in someone's eyes. Flashlights, it's dark half of the time throughout the day, but you can find yourself in a situation where you're in a room with no windows, and the only thing that's going to help you find your door or find a window to get your way out of there is going to be a flashlight. A flashlight is a must. The other thing that I've done to the Streamlight is, because they typically make the button recessed into the tail cap, so I've taken a Dremel tool and I've just removed that material that would prevent you from using it if you wanted to use it in a cigar hold or as a backup weapon light. I also carry a Crkt fixed blade. This is only for second cool factor. There's nothing that this knife does that this knife or my Leatherman Wave would do. There's nothing that this knife could do. The only reason that I carry this is because I like this knife, and it makes me happy to carry it. The other thing on my right hip is a Leatherman Wave. It is just a multi-tool with a knife, a saw, a file, several different screwdrivers, a pair of scissors, things like that. I would tend to use this more than I would use any of my other knives, only because the knife on this is more expendable. I wouldn't feel bad if I ruined the knife blade on this. The other thing, as far as medical goes, I always carry a TechMed Solutions Soft T tourniquet. I tend to keep the orange one instead of the black one because it's more of a civilian roll anyway, so I don't really worry about people seeing it. This is just a tourniquet holder that just loops through your belts at the 6 o'clock position. When you're sitting in a vehicle or sitting down in a chair or any type else, it tends to sit in your lumbar, so it doesn't disrupt your back when you're sitting in it. The reason that I like TechMed Solutions Soft T tourniquets is because, number one, the windlass is a metal windlass, and it will pull the entire tourniquet band through, so you can use it on smaller people, children or young adults, or people just with skinnier appendages anyway. And it also has the quick disconnect to open it up, where you don't have to run your tail end through the tri-glide to get the tourniquet on. TechMed Solutions Soft T Wide. The other thing that I carry is my everyday carry weapon. This is a Glock 19 with a loophole Delta Point Pro micro red dot. I have one magazine in the gun. I have one magazine in the magazine carrier, and it fits into a tier 1 concealment holster, which I run it in the appendix. The reason I run appendix holster is, if you watch a good majority of lethal threat encounters, people tend to backpedal so fast that they will end up on their back in the supine. You watch any law enforcement use of force videos, you watch any civilian defensive use of force videos, they tend to backpedal so fast that they end up on the supine. I wouldn't want to carry something in the 4 o'clock or the 6 o'clock position, because if you ended up on the supine, you might not be able to access your defensive firearm. The trend with people is, if you've ever been jump scared, your tendency is to come in and bring your defensive weapons up in front of you. And when your defensive weapons are up in front of you, your natural progression is just automatically on your center line. It's just something that we do as humans, where we're going to want to protect our face, we're going to want to protect our brain, our heart, and our lungs. So your stuff is just naturally there. So that's why I go with appendix. Also, with appendix, you can move around where the holster just fits naturally in your pelvic girdle, where you don't even know that you're wearing it most of the time. If you're driving in a vehicle and your feet are up, it just sits naturally in the grooves of your body, where it's not uncomfortable to wear. And that is what I carry every day.
All right, so Joey touched on a lot of things. Couple things I wanted to add to it. Number one is when I go up to my next level from my flashlight, if I need to go beyond my flashlight and I'm going to be away, you know, if I'm out in the woods or far from home, if we're going camping, something like that, I will add this Leatherman to my belt. It's a, you know, I don't need to, we ain't going to do a big show on Leatherman, but it's nice. It's a little more compact. Me being a little chubby fella, it's a little harder to carry, you know, as much stuff as Joey can, but I'm a simple guy and there's not much that I can't do. I'm very, let's just say I'm pretty mechanically inclined and a lot of common sense. So everybody's different. And in fact, we're going to talk about this too. I do also, on occasion, I will carry a full size. I haven't yet gone to, and my next purchase is going to be a Glock 19, just for the reliability and the ease of getting parts and this and that. This happens to be a full-size Ruger SR9. The reason I want to show you this, there's two reasons. Because I have this, this is Safariland. Safariland quick clip. So when we do competitive shooting, and that's one of the reasons we have a lot of our gear, I'm able to not only adapt this to my belt to carry the mags and everything I need for competitive shooting or airsoft or what have you, but I'm able to adapt this to a paddle holster. Now, I can't appendix carry. I mean, I'm too chubby. Let's just say I'm too fat for that. And there's a lot of people out there like me. So I always outside the waistband carry. That's just me. He's dead on with the information he's given you. He's taken a lot of training between law enforcement and outside, and even does a lot of teaching. But some of us have to be adaptable and overcome some of our adversities, or whatever you want to say. You know, I'm built like a Neanderthal, let's just say. But this is a big deal. But one of the reasons that I have this with the Safariland, nice, I love this holster. I have multiple of these, and they ain't cheap. So it's kind of hard to, you know, have multiple holsters for similar weapons. But one of the reasons I got this is just for this light I want to show you. So I have, and I was always under the argument that simple is better. The less is more, so to speak. But as I learn and, you know, deal with people like Joey here, he teaches me a lot, and I teach him things on other levels. But to go into a situation, if you ever have to pull this thing, we hope to God we never have to, but if you're going to pull it, but be able to identify your target. You do not want to make the mistake of hitting a family member. If you've ever gotten up in the middle of the night and stubbed your toe because you can't find your way to the bathroom, there's a reason that we put lights on weapons. So I don't have a light on my little pistol here, but I'm also not a dum-dum where I'm brandishing a weapon when I don't need one. This weapon here, if somebody breaks in, I hear a big crash in the night, I got access to this light goes on, and I'm checking the house.
There's a very big reason, and also in my everyday carry pistol, there is a flashlight on my everyday carry pistol as well, and obviously clear weapon is there has to be 50% of the day you're dealing with no light conditions, and also a caveat to that is also why the importance of carrying a hand torch as well, because you're not going to want to be flagging everything that you need to identify and put a light on. One of the things is you would want to have a hand torch to be able to identify non-threat situations, just that bump in the night. But if you ever had to employ your defensive weapon, you would want to 100% be sure that you can identify whatever that you were pointing your weapon at as being a threat. So that's...
There is 2 items that we did not talk about. Number 1 is being a watch. You know, a watch is a handy thing. I don't wear one all the time. Sometimes I do. This one happens to be a Fitbit, but I like to count my steps because I'm fat. But anyway, the other item was a fire starting tool. So there are certain places that I go that I didn't mention that, and I will put a Bic lighter in my pocket. I know, we've done all the blood and guts routine where we were starting fires with ferro rods and magnesium starters and all that stuff, and sure, that's awesome. But if I had my choice, I'd take a lighter with me over anything any day. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I'm Rambo. But if these 2 items are your basic everyday carry, we happen to be concealed carry people, but if these 2 items are your basic carry items, you're ahead of the game. Even if you took this out of the equation, because you know you're not a night owl, but you're home most of the time, even if you just had your Leatherman or some kind of tool, you're ahead of the game, right? Even if you just had a flashlight, you're ahead of the game. Just remember that. Huge.
Bare minimum, the most 2 important things of my everyday carry, and again, I use an Apple Watch. I usually don't even wear a watch. I just kind of stumbled upon this Apple Watch. My wife wanted to get one. We got hers half off if I took this one for free. I didn't ever have a need for it. I typically don't even carry a watch, but because I got it for free, I just ended up wearing it. And the potential of this watch, I would have never have guessed that it would be as useful as I've found it to be. So that is also why that's become an everyday thing. A bare minimum, you're talking everything that I showed you in my pocket dump. The bare minimum, I would get rid of absolutely all of it except for these 2 things. With these 2 things, I can do everything that all of my other EDC accomplished with just these 2 things. I have more than one cutting implement on here. That is your ability to make other things that your EDC accents anyway. And a flashlight a flashlight, in my opinion, is one of the most important things. You can use your flashlight. You can use your flashlight as a baton. You can use your flashlight to light something. You can use your flashlight as a deterrent. You could use your flashlight as some type of signaling device to somebody else. And your Leatherman, you can fix things. You can repair gear. You can cut, and you can make other tools that the Leatherman doesn't avail you to do. You can make spades for digging. You can make a bone drill. There's a ton of things that you can do with a Leatherman.
Pull a tooth too.
You can pull a tooth too.
But a lot of the things that we want to just stress, you saw a lot of gear here today. A lot of the gear, the main use for the gear is to be able to carry a certain amount of items. So even if you were just grabbing a flashlight, a Leatherman, you don't necessarily wear a belt, maybe you're overweight or whatever, some of them bags are inexpensive. What's it take to throw a bottle of water, a granola bar, and these 2 items in a bag and go for a walk? More people die in this country from hypothermia and hyperthermia just from not grabbing that one jacket, that little sweatshirt, and something like that. Look at a guy who the boulder fell on his arm. He had to cut his own arm off and able to save himself because nobody was around.
And I think he used like an Equinox Swiss Army knife to do it.
Very small knife. So not everything has to be top of the line. Some of these are a little expensive. I want to say this one was around $100, I believe. But you can buy a basic Leatherman for, you know, even $40, I believe. If you look around, be savvy with your cost.
And you want to know what one of the other things and something that really made me invest in this purchase was this is a Streamlight HLX dual fuel, which means it works on two CR123 batteries, which are $7 to $9 each. But this one came with a Streamlight rechargeable battery. It just came with it. It uses a micro USB cord to recharge it, or you can put it into a battery charger. One of the things that I've rationalized it over the years is I've recharged this battery so many times that it has actually paid for this light in the money that I've saved buying CR123 batteries. If I think that battery alone is only $30. So if I recharge that battery 4 times, it has paid for the battery. If I recharge that battery 9 more times, now it's actually paid for the light. So you're in essence, the longer that you use it and the more, if it's everyday carry, you're using it. I can't tell you how many times I've dropped something under the car seat. I use my flashlight to find it. I'm looking for something in the trunk of a car. I go downstairs in the middle of the night or early in the morning, getting ready for work. I don't want to turn on all the lights and disturb my whole house, so I would just use my flashlight to find what I need, to find my car keys, to grab my wallet, and to get out of the house. So it will end up paying for itself. Another thing is you don't need fancy packs. You don't need belt loops to carry these things. A lot of especially the new Leathermans, this Wave tends to be a little bit older. It's more than 15 years old. The new Leatherman Waves have belt clips that just clip into your pocket, similar to this Leatherman 4P here, where now your Leatherman is on one pocket and your flashlight is on the other pocket. It still prevents a relatively flat presentation. People aren't going to get as excited as if they see somebody with a pocket knife in their back pocket. They're going to automatically recognize as that is a knife. With something like this, they're recognizing it as being a tool and not necessarily an offensive weapon, which is a little bit more.
When you see the black.
When you see the black, when you see the belt carriers, they tend to think that that's more aggressive looking. Where if it's just a tool clipped into your pocket, it seems to disarm them a little bit more, and nobody is going to get excited about you having a flashlight. I talk about how commercially available medical gear and flashlights. I've flown on planes where, as I'm going through the security checkpoint, I'll just throw that in the drawer. I'll throw my tourniquet in the drawer, and nobody is even going to bat an eye at you having a flashlight and something that is as great of a force multiplier as a simple flashlight is. Obviously, you're not going to be able to travel with a Leatherman because of the blades and everything else, but I'm just talking for everyday carry in your average travels as a person, to the grocery store, to Walmart, wherever. Nobody is going to bat an eye if you have a multi-tool and a flashlight. Nobody's even going to look at that as being aggressive or offensive in nature.
And like I constantly have this knife on me along with my pistol, but when I do grab my Leatherman, I do take it out of the case and I use the clip here. I keep it in the case because I like the case. That's all. And
even though this is a more than adequate blade length, blade size, blade style, there is nothing that this could do that this blade on my Leatherman could not do. With the exception of, I may be willing to put this blade under more stress than I would be willing to put this blade, only simply because if I broke it, or if I damaged it, if I chipped the tip, or if I made it dull, I would feel worse off about doing that to this knife than I would be to thinking about just putting a new edge on this knife. And Leatherman's like warranty service is so good that had I done anything to this blade, I could just take a simple torque wrench, remove the blade, call Leatherman, and they're gonna send me a new blade for my multi-tool.
And one of the reasons I like the clips on the on the tools as well is that these wear out. And this knife right here, this is a buck knife. It's a traditional 110. This is the greatest steel you will ever have on a knife. You can't buy this no more. Buck has since changed the steel on their blades.
How many deer have you processed with that?
This knife alone, I used to do all my deer, all my rabbits, all my squirrels. I did everything with this knife alone. I have graduated to these kits where I keep bone saws and different things in there. But this knife here, I'll bet you I did 100 deer with this knife.
And
no kidding.
And it's still just as new as the day it was born. There's
still got stiffness.
there's no wiggle in the blade.
Know how many times I sharpened that blade?
The blade is still sharp and sharpened probably
that holds an edge better
100 times
better than these Benchmades. Now I switched to Benchmade because of the quality, and it does hold a good edge. It's decent steel, but it still doesn't touch that Buck 110 folder right there, that Hunter.
And like the brass grommets and everything, and
it's a little dull.
The spine and everything else. I mean, like there's no looseness to it at all whatsoever.
I'll never give up that knife. Nope. That's
an heirloom.
So I still use it to this day though. When I'm, believe it or not, like I take this kit, even when I'm processing meats in the kitchen, I still pull this knife out to process deer meat a lot of times. And I have a whole set of German knives that I use for animals too. But I use this more than anything. That's why I keep it in this
But your
kit.
comfort level with it, your familiarity with it, everything.
Yep.
My hunting knife is a Gerber stainless steel knife that I probably got when I was 9 years old, 10 years old.
That's another thing too. We've been mentioning Leatherman a lot, but I also have a buck tool that's the same type thing, and I have a Gerber, which is very good too. The quality is really good.
Only because we have Leathermans out on the table. I mean, we are not slave to any brand.
Right.
Even though that both of us have Surefire or Streamlight lights, we're not slave to any brand. We tend to use these only because of cost effectiveness, price point, and quality. That's typically, and anybody can afford $70-$80 for a flashlight. Anybody could afford around $100 for a multi-tool. And as far as a pocket knife goes, his Benchmade tends to be a little bit more expensive. This Benchmade,
this was $130.
This Benchmade fixed blade was around $170, and the only reason that I got that was just for second cool factor.
When I bought this one in high school, this thing I want to say cost me, I don't know, about $25 or something like that.
This CRKT fixed blade, this was about I think $80. But again, I only purchased some of these things not necessarily for using them. I bought them just for a second cool factor of I like the way they look. I like the way that they feel, and I know that they're never gonna let me down.
Why buy one when you can buy two? So the whole thing is, if one fails, you have another backup. So everything that we do, you always have some kind of backup. I guess is it a military standard? Two is one is none.
Correct.
So keep that in mind.
Things fail. Murphy tends to show up when you least expect them, and what can go wrong will go wrong. What can break will break when you need it most. So that's why a little bit of redundancy is built into these systems, and why it's beneficial to have them. Also, if you need to pass something off to someone who doesn't have something, if you need to trade something that you have two of for one thing that you don't have, a lot of these things also fill that void as well.
So we covered a lot. This is going to be a long video. In a nutshell, as a summary, we want to focus on the civilian aspect of everyday carry, EDC, which always goes along the lines of preparedness. This channel is all about preparedness. It's about homesteading. It's about protection, defense. I mean, the whole 9 yards, having fun. But we live in a world that's not always so nice. And we were just talking amongst ourselves. Like you said, you could just be at a grocery store and some nut job come up and start hurting people. You might be that person that could protect somebody. You might have to tackle somebody. You might have to fix a wound.
Very, very little of what was covered in this video or these videos had to do with armament or offensive capabilities. The majority of this stuff is defensive in nature. Even if somebody watching this video tends to be more of a pacifist or be more of a conscientious objector, where you don't think that using violence is right in any situation, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you
Or
what to
even
believe.
having somebody equipment.
Right, what to believe or how you should be thinking. The point that we're trying to get home to you is that there are people that don't feel like you feel, and if they think that you have something and they are one of the have-nots, they may look to take something of what you've built or what you've made. And these things and these items that we're lucky enough that we live in this country that allows us to have this stuff is to prevent someone from inflicting harm on you or someone you love. Or like he was saying, it doesn't even have to be somebody that you even know. You can be in defense of a third party that you don't even know. You can render aid to somebody that you don't even know. We have Good Samaritan laws and everything else, where as long as you do no harm, you're covered. You can be
Good intent, good decisions.
good intent. You can be the one to affect change and actually help somebody.
You should.
I agree with the live and let live, but I also appreciate that there are some people out there that don't feel the same way that I do. They just feel like they're entitled to take anything that you have, simply because they feel like they should have it. And these things that we have are for defensive nature, to prevent you, to prevent your loved ones from being victimized.
On the other side of that, there's a lot of people who shy away from preparedness and things like this until they get punched in the face. When it happens to them or their family and they have a big scare, next thing you know, they're prepping or whatever you want to call it, getting their safety gear, their medical supplies, things like that. We know the capabilities of people. We know the mental mindset of a lot of people, and especially being in law enforcement on the inside of the bars, we're dealing with the worst of the worst. All we can do is, we don't come out here and talk about those people with you, but the threat is there. The threat is there. There's always somebody out there who's just not thinking straight. Maybe medication is bad, something. So don't put yourself in a bad position, and always be aware of your surroundings.
And if you do go down the road of starting to get some of this stuff, use it, practice with it, train with it, get knowledge and get information about the things that you're buying and the things that you're carrying around, so that it becomes second nature to employ these things. Having something and having knowledge in how to use it and training in how to use it and practice using it is going to pay dividends. So
same with the garden. Practice, practice, practice. We tell you that all the time.
Right.
This is a channel to teach you so you can learn. You know what? A lot of you people know me, you know Joey, or just one of us. But now you see that we are on a high level of preparedness. We just want what's best for our family. We want to be left alone. That's all.
And we want to help you to get to that level as well.
Right.
So that
Definitely.
we can lean on each other. We can bounce ideas back and forth between us. We can have an open, constructive dialogue between us. And you know what? Maybe I've learned from a mistake that I could share with you to prevent you from making a mistake, and maybe the same thing coming from you. Maybe you can learn something
Save you money
that I would benefit from, and save you money.
We've bought some things that we didn't necessarily have to purchase. We could have gotten away with it cheaper, little better product, inexpensive. You know what? You could see some of the stuff or ask questions, and we can help you there too.
Right.
And I just want to thank my buddy Joey for taking the time out of his day to come out here with all his gear and all this stuff. I mean, this is big. Hopefully this is a decent video for you people, and you learned something
I hope
today.
you get something out of it, and it was my pleasure.